why we have E sharps and B sharps, why we have double sharps and double flats, that actually comes from this discussion. Okay? For instance, if we are playing in the key of, let's think of some really ungodly key.
Stevie Wonder.
If we're in the key of C sharp, we would have those three pitches for the root triad of the C sharp scale, and you say to yourself, yeah, but really E sharp is really a white key. It's not a black key. It's a white key. Why do we have to call that E sharp? Why can't we just call it F? Well, that opens the discussion. E sharp is not really F. E sharp is actually a little bit higher than F. But on the piano, we don't have another key for it, so we play that key as an F, okay? But that's why we don't write an F. Now, there's another reason why we don't write an F there. If anybody but Chris was playing this, they would end up using thumb, fourth, and fifth finger instead of 1, 3, 5, because it looks like, and this is actually a fourth, and when you write it like that, it becomes really easy to play the wrong note. When you make it look like that, the piano player will go at it with 1, 3, and 5. That's another reason why we do that. The reason I said anybody but Chris would make a mistake, Chris doesn't ever make mistakes, so that wouldn't be a problem with Chris.
Super true.
By the way, some good bands yesterday. I enjoyed hearing the bands. And some of you are in here today. Are there some more bands playing this afternoon that are members of those? You too? Very good. The name of your band is what? We did this before, you know.
Yep.
Did you hear it right this time?
No.
Conquering Your Gravity.
Conquering.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you.
Not concrete.
I'm sorry. I'm losing my hearing.
Think Genghis Khan. You'll get it.
But I'm anxious to hear you play. Have I heard? I think I've heard you play.
Yeah.
I heard you at the Dusty Bookshop, maybe.
Yeah.
Yeah. And who all is in
Sister
there?
Sounds maybe. I don't know if you met left there. Tyson was bands too.
Time Ayers?
Yes.
Okay.
They performed in the Disney show.
All right.
Probably in it.
Well, I certainly did enjoy yesterday's offerings. I get such a kick out of Dylan Richard.
Who doesn't?
What did he sing?
If they would just they would have just not pulled it out of
I really shouldn't even comment because the voting is not done yet. So
I was surprised by how well they did that.
Dylan is a very creative young man. And he can do so much if he could just learn how to finish a song. That's all I really needed him to do yesterday. At the end of every song, he'd say, "That's enough of that." There are better ways to finish a song. Oh well. I shan't say anymore. But it was fun. I immediately scored Dylan way down on my points because I had both his mother and his uncle as students, and anybody who makes me feel that old, I immediately. Okay. Now let's get back to what we were doing. Let's turn to page 18, if you would.
15 minutes into the lecture.
Page 18. Oh, and by the way, that first one that you did yesterday, was that the one you accidentally let run longer than you intended?
Yes.
Because I had to cut a few frames out of it to make it fit.
It was like 16 minutes.
Okay.
It only ran for 16 minutes, and it cut off. And then when it cut off, I realized, oops.
That woke you up, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was so into the conversation. It was like,
All right, so now we're actually speaking in terms of tempered tuning, but on the top of page 18 it says F sharp identifies that black key as the pitch above F, while G flat tells us it's the pitch below G. At first it may seem needlessly confusing that one black key can have two different names, but once you understand the pattern it will make sense. It's important to remember that each of the white keys has its own letter name A through G, while each of the black keys is related to and takes its name from the white key on either side of it. All right, now, the musical distances, we are going to actually have a whole chapter about musical distances, which is actually called intervals, but they're going to teach you your first one now, half steps and whole steps. And it's at this time I usually tell a hilarious story about my daughter and half steps and whole steps, but I'm going to wait.
Aww.
I'll do it off camera, how's that?
Okay.
Because it doesn't actually enhance your education any.
But the Ebonics lecture is so helpful.
Yeah. Anyway, when I say this, it always reminds me of my daughter. The smallest interval that we can make on the piano is a half step. Now, in truth, because I'm going to tell you a story later, in truth, we can actually make a smaller interval. It's amazing, and trombone players are the best at making smaller than a half step. I remember when I used to have to go down, when this was like 7,000 years ago, Yule Burden, who is now dead, used to teach junior high band. That was before we had the middle school concept here. We were doing junior high, and I would go down about once every week or so and give each of his junior high band members a little playing test. And the trombones, their first playing test was a chromatic scale. And 7th grade trombone players, even though there are only actually